putting the Thunder on the Lakers. Caruso with the big dunk right here. Game 4, this thing seems like it's all over. This was all OKC tonight. The loose ball doesn't go the Lakers' way, it goes the Thunder way. Just like everything else in this one, OKC holding on for the 131-108 win. The Thunder lead this series now 3-0. You see, A.J. Mitchell, the surprise name of this postseason, 24 points, leading all scorers in this one. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander still had a fine night himself with 23. LeBron James with 19 for the Lakers. And to chat all things Lakers and Thunder, we welcome in former NBA big man Al Harrington. And Al, you were part of 7 playoff teams in your illustrious career, so you know what it takes to go on a postseason run. Can you put into context how difficult it is for teams in today's NBA to blow out this many teams and have this many wins the way that the OKC Thunder have been doing so far?
Well, it seems to not be difficult for these guys. I mean, they really got it together. They've been playing really good, throughout most of the season. They had their hiccups with like different guys in and out the lineup for health, but it just seems like the culture that they have there is one that is about winning and winning at a high level and trying to win another championship going back to back. When you look at this team, like they have no flaws. The one thing that I always say about this team and the reason why it's so special to me is because they command the same type of attention and to detail on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. Every team in the playoffs, I feel like all have like a defensive weak link. They don't have one. All 5 guys on their team are required to play defense at a high level. And because of that, to me, it's going to be difficult to beat these guys, and they're always going to be in every single game. And even in games like this with the Lakers, it seems like in the first half, they kind of let the Lakers hang around, but in the second half, they decide to clamp down, and then you see they keep winning these games by double digits.
Yeah, you mentioned winning games by double digits. They were swept their way through the first round. 25 points per game is what the point differential was in games 1 and 2. 23-point differential tonight. How did they just clamp down, as you said, in the fourth quarter and made sure that the Lakers were not going to be able to come back?
I mean, they did it by committee. It's not just one guy. Obviously, Shai is the closer, and most times, it's usually him doing it. But right now, a little bit of everybody's, chipping in. Chet has been very difficult to guard. To me, I feel like he was the X factor. But then tonight, you have a guy that surprises everybody with A.J. Mitchell. He's definitely a special talent in this league. I think he is a starting point guard on most teams, probably, 80% of the teams in the NBA. And tonight, he was playing downhill. He was scoring the ball. He was assisting the ball. He was defending. He did everything. So, even like in the first half where Shai was, I think, 2 for 11 or something like that, it still didn't affect their team because they had a guy like A.J. Mitchell playing well. Casey Wallace hit 3 threes off the bench. Just everybody contributed. And when everybody's playing like that, is that it's going to be a tough team to beat, long term.
What is it about A.J. Mitchell's play in this series? He had 20 points in game 2 as well. Then, of course, going off for 24 in this game. What is it about his play that you've seen that's allowed him to be this breakout star in this postseason?
I think the injury, to Williams, allows him to, do a little bit more out there. And, I think he's really showing the league and showing his team what he really can do. Like I said, I think with this team, after, whatever happens this year, I think this team is going to have to make some difficult decisions in regards to personnel. And the way he's playing right now, he's going to make them have to decide that he's going to be one of the guys that's going to have to stick around. So, a big fan of AJ's, I hope he continues to play at this high clip. I think, for the most part, anytime they've given him an opportunity to play extended minutes, this is the kind of production that they've gotten from him.
Yeah, now, after LeBron James averaged about 25 points in the first 2 games of this series, he only had 19 here in Game 3. How did OKC kind of put the clamp down on him in Game 3?
I would say they putting a clamp down on LeBron. It's hard for anybody to do that to him. I just think that we talk about father time, I think it kicks in here and there, right? In this round, they're playing every other day. So, in the first round, you had 2 days off in between games and stuff like that. And obviously, even with them playing against the Rockets, it was a little bit easier because, everybody was kind of chipping in. But in a series like this, when you're playing against a juggernaut, you need your star to be the star of stars. And, I just think that with LeBron's age and what they need from him, and the fact that he needs to play on the defensive end. He can't really take plays off. It's just going to be difficult. So I think that as this series goes on, if it does go past 4 games, I think it'll just be more and more difficult for a guy like LeBron to be as effective as he was, in the first round.
How much gets put more on his shoulders, so to speak, now that we go into a 3-0 series lead for OKC? The Lakers obviously don't want to get swept. They don't want to end this thing in Game 4. How much more is on his shoulders to get them over that hump and try to make this a series?
I mean, I don't think you could put any more on the shoulders that's already there. You just need guys like, you need Austin Reeves to step up. You need the Japanese Jordan Hachimura to, continue to play well. I mean, he is one of the bright spots. I think he's shooting almost 60% from 3. So, I mean, I'm almost thinking like maybe they need to figure out how to get him more shots, from 3 points, because, that could help kind of fight the onslaught that, comes from OKC. But it's going to have to be by committee. But, when you really just look over there, you look at the guys that they're relying on, it's just going to be a difficult hill for LeBron to, climb by himself.
Yeah, indeed it will. And you mentioned Rui Hachimura. He has certainly been a bright spot for the Lakers through these playoffs. We'll see if the Lakers can bounce back and get it done. That's Al Harrington. Thank you so much for the time, brother.
Thanks for having me.
For more on all things NBA, let's welcome in our friend Sam Quinn. Sam, I said it, we can just keep throwing out the sports analogies here. It's do or die time for the Lakers. But the big talk coming out of that game, too, though, was, of course, the officiating. J.J. Redick had a lot to say about it after the game, but he also made sure to point out that's not why they lost. From your point of view, how is the officiating playing a role versus just how unbeatable is this Thunder team?
Yeah, we have to put this in perspective. The free throw margin in Game 2 was 5, and the Thunder won by 18. I'm sympathetic to some of these concerns about the officiating. The Thunder are almost impossible to properly officiate. There's a little bit of Seattle Seahawks Legion of Boom where it felt like, oh, they commit pass interference on every play because they know the refs can't call it. The Thunder do a little bit of that too. They play so physically, they find out where the line is, and they go right up to it every play. They're so good, they're so aggressive, they're so physical defensively that, yeah, I do see where some of the frustration comes. Maybe there should be more calls against them, but they won the game by 18. This is just a talent disparity. It's this simple. If the Lakers had Luka Doncic, I think this series would be pretty competitive. They played fairly well, at least in the first halves of these games. But then when we get to the second half, the talent disparity comes across, and the Thunder are winning relatively easily. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has 40 points in the series. He hasn't really been that stressed. When you're giving up 40 combined points to A.J. Mitchell and Jared McCain, guys who are starter quality on other teams, but are backups on this Thunder roster, it just looks like the Thunder are too deep for the Lakers. So, look, again, I am sympathetic, and there might be opponents where the margin is close enough that the officiating makes a difference. The Lakers without Luka Doncic are not there. They are just not good enough to win this series.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the injuries that the Lakers are facing. It's also the same thing for the Thunder, right? Jalen Williams is out due to that hamstring strain. The difference, though, being it doesn't seem like it's making much of a difference. So how does that affect when the Thunder decide to put him back out there, that they seem to be quite all right without him?
Yeah, I would expect that he doesn't play until the Spurs series, or if he does, they manage him very, very cautiously, maybe bring him off of the bench. A.J. Mitchell is playing so well in that starting role that, why bother bringing him back off the bench? The Spurs are the only team, I think, that can really stress the Thunder. They beat them 4 times in the regular season. They have a real problem with Victor Wembanyama because so much of their offense centers on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander penetrating the rim. Well, penetrating the rim against Victor Wembanyama is a different story. I think they're going to operate as if getting him ready for the Spurs series is all that matters. Without Luka, the Lakers just can't stress them enough to really force them to change their plans, right? They're up 2-0. They're in Los Angeles now for these next 2 games, but the shorthanded Lakers aren't going to challenge them enough that they have to rush Jalen Williams back. So I'm expecting them to be as cautious as possible with an eye on the Spurs series as their main plan here.
Sam, I like we're already calling it the Spurs series. Not quite there yet, but it certainly looks to be going that way. Another